Hello, thanks so much for joining us. My name is Kim Sterrett. I'm the Director of Parent and Family Programs. It is my pleasure today to welcome Dr. Gerard Love, the Director of Collegiate Recovery and Intervention Services. We are delighted to have you here. Thanks so much for taking the time to tell us a little bit about how to better support the addicted student, a student who's struggling with addiction or is in recovery, and how we can best support them. So
Sure,
thanks
great.
so much.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here to talk with you today about this topic. To begin with, let me give you a little bit of an introduction about our department. The title of our department is Collegiate Recovery and Intervention Services. And our particular department provides a continuum of care for students who have substance use concerns. So a student that might be coming to our department really falls on a true continuum of perhaps being in the wrong place at the wrong time and making a bad decision, all the way to students that are in full-blown abstinence-based recovery. So we provide services for all of those students. Within our department, the services that we're providing for students, our referral process typically is coming from the Office of Student Conduct. And so those would be some of the students that have had situations on campus where, again, they've perhaps made a bad decision. So we're working with those students to help them better navigate life on campus. And we use a variety of different approaches to help those students. We generally use a holistic approach to try and help those students better understand self and better understand the skills that they need in order to be successful here on campus. Part of those services also include individual counseling, group counseling, psychoeducation. We have a licensed marriage and family therapist on staff that also provides services whenever parents have a desire or there's a need for parents to be involved in the process. So we definitely include those services for our students. We also have an in-house laboratory, so drug testing when it is needed is something else that we can provide for students. All right, the arrow wasn't. Got good? Perfect, all right. So the mission of our statement is enhancing student lives through transformational experiences that emphasize recovery, unity, and development. That mission statement drives all the services that we provide for students in our department. We think of our work as being focused on designing programs and activities that are going to help students see themselves in a new light, and then again be better able to do the work that they need to do to be successful on campus. Recovery, unity, and development are specific categories that capture the work that we do on campus with our students in all areas of our department. So again, you can see that in terms of referrals, that we have referrals coming in from the Office of Student Conduct if the student has a violation on campus. We also have self-referrals. We like to see ourselves as being a resource for all students on campus. So we oftentimes have family members that will reach out to us saying that they've noticed that there might be a concern with their student and how can we help. We also have students that are perhaps coming from an inpatient treatment facility. So those are some of the ways that we get students into our department. Our services include recovery orientation, family programming, and then individual counseling and group counseling. Again, we have a complete continuum of care here in our department, and that's one of the things that's particularly unique about the Alabama model in a collegiate recovery program, is that we provide services for students who may have, again, just been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then also for students who are pursuing long-term recovery from substance use. One of the unique things that's also provided in our department is that the criteria for membership in a collegiate recovery program is typically having at least a year of sobriety, a year of recovery, and active participation in 12-step programs. We use a mentoring model here in collegiate recovery, so students who are yet to meet those minimum requirements are paired with a student who is currently has full membership in the collegiate recovery community, and then they are able to work with the student to help them develop the skills in order to transfer over to full membership in the collegiate recovery lifestyle that we offer. This is another representation that you see here with our prospective members and our full members. Again, we're looking for students to have a year in recovery and active participation in 12-step fellowship. This is important for parents if you have a child who's in recovery and you're thinking about sending them to a university. Any university across the country that you send a student to who's completed treatment, who's in recovery, you're sending them to a challenging environment. So one of the things that our collegiate recovery program does is that it ensures that the students have a safe environment where they're surrounded by like-minded individuals who are pursuing recovery. The prospective members have, in essence, a treatment plan that they're following, working closely with staff. So those prospective members do not pose a risk to the full members in the collegiate recovery community. But it is a model that embraces all students. So we don't have to turn a student away who recently completed treatment because they don't have a year of recovery. So we're able to work with those students and then bring them into our community so they can continue to be successful as an undergraduate student. And then if they decide to stay here for graduate school, they can also continue their membership in our collegiate recovery community, which is a nice piece for our students. You can see on this slide what some of our programming looks like. Again, using that word transformational, we're looking for experiences for our students that are going to help them develop a skill set and begin to facilitate more identity development as an individual in recovery, and then also as a successful student on campus. So when focusing on recovery, we offer things such as recovery night. We have in-house 12-step meetings. We start every day with morning reflection. Again, we have the mentoring process, we have step study group, and our students are involved in ARHE, which is the Association for Recovery in Higher Education. In terms of unity or community development, we have a dedicated space in our facility for our students in recovery. We have weekly family meals, we have monthly family dinners. Our students are engaged in a variety of different activities. We go kayaking, we go stand-up paddleboarding, we do nutrition workshops, we go to the breakout room in Birmingham, we went to a haunted house as a group. So all activities are student driven, so they'll be successful and popular, but we put a lot of emphasis on adventures for our students to participate in. We also participate in community service. We have done programs for local residential drug and alcohol treatment programs. We recently completed a service day. We went to a local state park and helped with a cleanup project. We have intramural sports and that our students participate in. And one of the highlights of the fall season is our recovery tailgate. We have a sober recovery tailgate for every home game in an amazing location on the quad. So all of our students are able to participate in the thrill and excitement of Alabama football, and again, be in a safe and protected environment. The third area of development is an area where we offer an a la carte workshop series for our students. So they have the opportunity to choose the workshops that they want to attend for the week. And again, those include things like financial sobriety, relationships with family, yoga, meditation, nutrition, and cooking classes. We have one-on-one counseling available as well, and family programming. Our program manager in the collegiate recovery program also works with academic advisement, advises our students. We work closely with the Career Center and do career assessment. And then we also have multiple sets of information in our office to work with students as they are contemplating going to law school or going on to graduate school. So we do a lot with career and also graduate school preparation is another really important piece. So those are the services that we offer within our department. And as you can see, it truly is a continuum of care. So for a student, again, who is receiving basic drug and alcohol counseling services, all the way to a student who is pursuing long-term ongoing abstinence-based recovery, we have a variety of different services and programs to support all of those students. One of the questions that is an important question for parents is how do you decide what might be going on with your student? So what I'd like to do now is just to give you a little bit of information about how to be aware of what might be going on with your students, particularly if you would like to make a referral. This will give you some some checklists to think about what might be going on with my student and why it appears that they're having some difficulties and what would be the source of those difficulties. So when we think about substance use, substance abuse, and then addiction, they're basically three different concepts, but unfortunately they're used in our society as interchangeable terms. So use, the best descriptor for use, whether the individual is over 21 or under 21, is just the simple process of students using substances, obviously based upon the laws of our state and then the code of conduct and the policies of the university. Students are not supposed to be using substances. They're not supposed to be engaging in underage drinking. However, at any college campus, not just here at University of Alabama, but sometimes those activities take place off campus in various settings. So students often are exposed to opportunities to use substances. When you think about substance abuse is typically easily defined as whenever a student is using too much, too often, at an inappropriate time and place, and then the student may therefore experience some kind of consequence because they may be caught if they're using too much, too often, inappropriate time and place. The major difference between substance abuse and then moving on to this next stage where a student would actually have a substance use disorder, or what we refer to as a student who's addicted, is the inability for that student to shape their behavior. So as a parent, whenever you're trying to decide what might be going on with your student, making a bad decision and getting caught and experiencing some sort of consequence is step one. But typically what happens for a majority of students is that once they experience some sort of a negative consequence, then they shape their behavior. So the student's basically saying to themselves, I'm not going to do that again. That was a bad decision. Look at all the things that happened to me. So what differentiates substance abuse from a substance use disorder, which would be what we consider to be a full-blown addiction, is that after repeated consequences, then a student does not end up shaping their behavior or making better decisions. So despite negative consequences, and the other part that's a really key piece of this is that with substance abuse, sometimes students will even announce, like, there's a party this weekend. I just finished all my midterm exams, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to, go drink with my friends off campus. But the difference between substance abuse and a substance use disorder is that it's not by choice. The students that actually have a substance use disorder or struggling with addiction don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to have the troubles that they're experiencing, but they have an inability to shape their behavior despite the negative consequences that they're experiencing. So that's one of the things that's really key in terms of differentiating. Some other things that are helpful for parents to look at are to look at some basic categories. One would be life interference. There's a variety of different ways that a student's life can experience interference. And you can typically connect the dots and discover that friendships changing, not doing well academically, health concerns, perhaps even being transported to a local hospital, potentially legal problems, all of those things, whenever you put them together, if the one thing that connects them all would be substances, then that is a pretty good predictor that something may be going on with that student. The other thing that tends to be pretty diagnostic is that if a student is using more in order to get the same effect, and if a student experiences some withdrawal symptoms in the sense that they are either physiologically or psychologically craving whatever their drug of choice might be. And then the last piece is that whenever students lack the ability to accurately predict what's going to happen on a given evening, that tends to be highly diagnostic of a student having a problem with substances. That term is typically referred to as loss of control. And the thing that's really important is to realize that no one decides that they want to go out and get cited for having alcohol in their residence hall, or they don't want to receive a DUI. No one chooses to have those things happen to them, and it may not have even been the intention of the student whenever they began an evening of celebrating off campus with friends. So loss of control, meaning that they lose the ability to accurately predict the outcome of their behavior once they start consuming alcohol or recreational or using recreational drugs. So that's one of the things that's really important in terms of differentiating. Substance abuse is by choice. Again, too much, too often, inappropriate time and place. But once they experience some consequences, then that behavior comes crashing to a halt, or that behavior is significantly shaped and the student engages in a more responsible way. Students that despite negative consequences are unable to start shaping their behavior, or they try multiple times to stop using and they're not successful, that student is in need of some drug and alcohol counseling and maybe even inpatient treatment. So in order to facilitate that process, it just means that a parent needs to be aware of what's going on in their student's life. You need to be able to connect those dots that oftentimes a student may not be able to. Having a substance use problem or a substance use disorder is not a problematic thing. It actually is a very treatable concern for a student to have. So if you discover that your student has gotten in trouble on campus or off campus as a result of their use and you're concerned about them, the easiest thing for you to do would be to contact our office. And our office can be reached at area code 205-348-2727. The process, if you were to refer a student to us, would simply be that the student would need to take a little bit of responsibility to actually come to the appointment. So we can't force a student to come and see us. But if you call, we would be more than happy to talk with you about your concerns in terms of finding a treatment center for your son or daughter, and or we would be able to provide you with an opportunity for your student to come here and receive drug and alcohol counseling from our staff. And so again, the number that you would call would be the 205-348-2727. When you make that call, then your student would come in and have an assessment, and then some of the licensed clinicians in the department would then provide information to the student in terms of what their recommendations would be. We're happy to share that information with you if the student signs a document giving us consent to communicate with you. And we always encourage students to do that because we really like to have families involved in the process. Treatment that includes families is always much better treatment. So if you are in the process of trying to make a referral to our department, encourage your student to sign the release so we can communicate with you, because we would love to be able to do that and to incorporate you into the services that we provide. So it's a very simple process. It's a quick process. And then we're able to give you updates, again, with a signed release, and then to continue to work with your student in all the different ways that we think would be helpful so they all have a successful experience on campus. That's our number one goal, and that's what we think about every single day whenever we come to work, is thinking about how we can design transformational programming for our students and how we can do whatever is possible to encourage our students to have a successful experience. So again, that's our daily task, is to think about what's in the best interest of your student.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all of this great information, and we really appreciate it. Should you have any questions about anything that was discussed here today, you are welcome to contact our office, Parent and Family Programs, and we're happy to connect you with Collegiate Recovery and Intervention Services. Or as Dr. Love mentioned, you can call their office directly in order to get some additional information and support for whatever you might need. This concludes our spring webinar series. This is our last, and so we hope that you've gotten some good information from these webinars and from our wonderful colleagues across campus. We will have another webinar series this fall, and we will likely put out a call to see what you would like to hear about, what you would like to learn about in webinars for the fall. So if you have some ideas or anything like that that you would like to either post in the comments or send along our way, we would welcome those ideas. Thanks so much. We hope you have a great rest of your week. Roll Tide.